Hello, let's continue our conversation on Stoicism, going over the Moral Letters by Seneca. It was pointed out to me, and I agree, I had that same feeling, that one of the issues with the letters is that they are just so long. So I thought what we would do moving forward is me selecting a passage or one or two passages from a certain letter. The one for today, for example, is pretty much 4 pages, and I think it's just a lot to go through the whole thing. So this is very similar to what we did with Marcus Aurelius. We didn't go through every single section in a book. We just went through sections from each of the 12 books. Does that make sense? All right, giggity. Let's continue with letter 14. I admit that a fondness for our body is innate in us. I admit that we are charged with the care of it, nor do I hold that one ought not to make any allowances for the body. What I do hold is that one ought not to be its slave. One who is a slave to the body, who is excessively fearful on account of it, who refers all things to it, will be a slave to many. We should behave not as if the body were the proper reason for our lives, but as if it were merely a necessity for life. Excessive love for it troubles us with fears, burdens us with worries, exposes us to criticism. Honor is cheap to one who holds the body too dear. Take scrupulous care of it, but on condition that when required by reason or self-respect or loyalty, it is to be thrown into the fire. The letter then continues with a fairly lengthy exposition of things that we can fear, such as poverty or disease or maltreatment, and then it's combined with examples, etc. What I was thinking about when I was reading this passage is that it's an interesting contrast with other Stoics, because when you read Epictetus, for example, Epictetus, who had a limp, probably, but at least potentially, apocryphal story has it that when Epictetus was a slave, his master was twisting his leg, and Epictetus supposedly said, if you keep twisting it, you will break it. And his master did keep twisting his leg, and the leg did break. And Epictetus said, see, I told you so. Now, that sounds very Stoic to me. Very impressive if that is truly the case. But again, we don't know if that story is true. What is known is that he had a limp. He walked with what would be crutches today. So Epictetus had a strange, well, maybe not strange. Epictetus, I think, had a quite outspoken feeling that your body does not matter. And I think that's also the Stoic view, and I'll try to explain why in my mind. So Epictetus had wonderful quotes, right? Like, we're just corpses carrying around souls and such. And I think that is a very Stoic view. Your body does not really matter, because at the end of the day, you can fall ill at any time. That's outside of your control. A terrible accident may happen to you that is largely out of your own control. You may just die. You could have some sort of terrible thing happen to you, an aneurysm or whatever, and you just drop dead. So why would you really value your body? And why would you? Seneca here takes an interesting approach by saying, what was his exact phrase? What I do hold is that one ought not to be its slave. He does say we should take incredibly good care of our body. And I think many other Stoics would say, well, yeah, you should. But if you don't, then don't be surprised if things happen to your body. That's a consequence. So I enjoy Seneca's points of don't become too attached to the whole thing, because all kinds of things can happen, right? At any moment, something can happen. But I I enjoy his statement here. Excessive love for it troubles us with fears, burdens us with worries, exposes us to criticism. Honor is cheap to one who holds the body too dear. Take scrupulous care of it, but on condition that when required by reason or self-respect or loyalty, it is to be thrown into the fire. That too is a very Stoic viewpoint. At any point in time, you have to be able to give that up. If that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. Nothing you can do about it. Then that's the end of it. And I think the reason I found this particular part of this letter appealing was that it made me think of my own body and the things that happen to it. There's not a whole lot that happens to it, but we do value our bodies, right? I know that there's a distressing amount of hair disappearing from my temples there. Well, not temples, my forehead there. I know that this is the case. Am I really bothered by it? Not a whole lot, but I mean, I would lie if I would say, well, I don't notice it and kind of keep an eye on it, right? And I mean, I think there are other things like that too. I remember, I have mentioned this before, but about 2 years ago, I had a migraine, and I'd never had migraines, and the symptoms were a bit neurologic, so I did see a doctor, and he seemed fairly relaxed about it, but then I got a call in the evening, like 7 p.m. or something, that I should go to the hospital immediately. The physician told me that. I should go to the stroke clinic. So I had blood work done that day. Now, before we get very nervous, everything was fine. There was nothing wrong. It was just a migraine. But for some reason, I think he changed his mind from it may be okay, we should get him checked, to we should get him checked immediately, right? There was a sort of panic. So I'm at the ER, and I took a very long time, multiple hours. I finally saw a doctor. The doctor said, yeah, that's not, your blood work is fine, everything is fine. It was just a migraine. I don't know what the issue is. Well, that's good news to hear. But the point I was trying to make was, at that point, I was sitting in the ER. I sat there waiting for probably 3 hours. It was a long wait. And clearly I didn't have any symptoms at the time, so it was right that I was made to wait. There were other people who came in with, this dude with like his arm hanging off, and then the other guy put in, like, carried in on a carrier, and then the one dude coming in on a wheelbarrow who's broken both legs, so to speak. I mean, obviously I was not the most severe case, so you just sort of sit there. And I remember thinking to myself, I think it was 34 at the time, maybe it was 35, I think it was 34. I remember thinking to myself, I was nervous and I was anxious about what was happening and what was going on and what might be going on. But then I also thought to myself, and afterwards I was a little proud of myself because I thought that was a very Stoic thought. I also thought to myself, but on the other hand, whatever is going to happen will happen. Right? There's nothing I can do about it now. And the second thing is, if this is the first time I've had a real medical thing in 34 years, I've had some leg surgery, but that was just mechanical stuff. That was nothing life-threatening or anything. I thought, if this is the first time in 34 years that I have a real medical thing, then how fortunate am I? Look at what some other people go through. I remember when I had my leg surgery, I was in high school, that there was a girl at the same time having leg surgery, and they actually amputated her leg. I just had corrective surgery. So things could have been a lot worse. And then it turned out that it was nothing, that it was just a migraine. I mean, it would be better to not have migraines than to have migraines. But there are considerably worse things that you could suffer from. And that made me, it was a period that I was very anxious, because I then had to I had another episode, so to speak, and the physician insisted that I would see a neurologist, and that took not almost a year, but it was something like I think 8 months or so to see the neurologist. And the neurologist said, "Yeah, just a migraine, man, calm down." Anyway, that was a period of quite some anxiety for me, because you have that nagging fear of there might be something wrong. And that is when these types of Stoic thoughts, I believe, can be very helpful. That you remind yourself, things that will happen will happen. I can do everything I can to take care of my body. Ironically, I had a massive burger and fries tonight, but that's a once in a while thing. You treat yourself. But beyond that, I do try to take care of my body. And then beyond that, what else can you do? You have to wait and see. We don't know. And I think that attitude is an important one. Try to do what you can to take care of your body, but then also realize that certain things are outside of your control and that you can't value it too much. There will be a day that you breathe out for the last time, right? And on that happy note, I will say goodbye. Let me know what you think of this part of the letter, if it made sense to you, what your thoughts are. It's always interesting to read. What you think of this idea of approaching your body that way, not being too attached to it, but also not throwing it away needlessly. And that's it. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you again next week. Bye-bye.